Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today we're going to be doing another fragrance battle, and this one is between by Kilian Roses on Ice and Nautica Voyage, so stay tuned for that. If you like top 10 lists, fragrance reviews, first impressions, and clone comparisons, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So I actually decided to get around to doing this, and the reason I actually originally started doing this or thought about doing this was actually more or less a joke that I kind of like to make, just because Roses on Ice is a fragrance that has cucumber in it, and a lot of people know Nautica Voyage for having a cucumber vibe to it, and so I thought it would be kind of funny to start calling Roses on Ice the niche Nautica Voyage. And what actually happened, just because I mean, I hadn't actually tested it at the time, but I decided to put on Fragrantica that it smelled like Nautica Voyage, and surprising to me, a lot of people seem to agree with that. So I thought to myself, you know what, maybe there is something to this. I'll do a side-by-side comparison of these two. So today we have the fragrance battle that you never knew you needed until now, and that is Kilian Roses on Ice and Nautica Voyage. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Voyage, a little bit about Nautica, and a little bit about how they're different. Or sorry, a little bit about Roses on Ice, how they're different, how they're similar. So Nautica Voyage, at least from what I hear, is the #1 seller fragrance on Amazon. Now, you can get this very cheap. I think it's like under $20 for, I think there's 100 ml. And to be honest with you, for the price point, it's actually a pretty good fragrance. So it is a fresher fragrance. It's well known for having a bit of a cucumber vibe. This one does open up a little bit ozonic bright. There's a touch of sweetness there with it, but there is, again, this very prominent cucumber feeling that this one has with it. Now, the thing is that Roses on Ice also has a very similar quality in the opening. You get a very prominent cucumber note, and you get this sort of fresh ozonic feeling as well. Now, I'm going to tell you that they do actually smell kind of similar on the opening. So as these ones both open up, I find this one a little bit sweeter. I do find it definitely a little bit more synthetic. There is a little bit of a noisy, screechy feel that this kind of has, especially when you smell it up close, that of course this one doesn't have. And it is an expensive niche fragrance and niche brand, so you would absolutely expect that. You know, the cucumber note is a lot higher quality, a lot more photorealistic, and I do find that it just overall does smell like a higher quality fragrance. Again, that's probably no surprise. This is like $200, and this one is $20. So huge price point difference there. Now, like I mentioned, I do find this one has a little bit of a sweetness going for it. And, you know, as these transition into the mid, they also have something in common. They have a floral heart. Now, this one has rose in it, and I do actually pick up a hint of the rose. Even actually during the opening, I do get a little bit of that rose vibe. It is a fresh, ozonic kind of rose. It's very subtle. It's just a subtle, sort of rosy floral nature that this one has. This one also has floral heart. I forget, it's mimosa and something else that this one has. And so as this one transitions into the mid, it also becomes quite floral. It still has that ozonic kind of aquatic vibe that it has going for it, but it also has a little bit of a floral vibe, which is a little bit sweet. As this one moves into the mid, yes, it has a little bit of that rose, but I find it gets a little bit more musky. It starts to lose a little bit more of that ozonic quality, and it does become a little bit more of a musky fragrance. It's not overly musky, it's a very light musk. And, you know, ultimately, they do, I think, you know, around the mid, you know, the opening and the mid is when they're the most similar. As this one dries down, I actually get some slight woodiness. So this does have woods in it. I get this very slight wood with a muskiness, and it still has that sort of a bit of an ozonic vibe. A lot of people talk about this one as like a gin and tonic. Personally, I don't get that. I also don't drink gin. I think I've only had it about twice in my entire life. So for me, the scent memory is just definitely not going to be there. So to me, it's not an overly boozy fragrance. Now, when this one dries down, I do find it still has a little bit of that sweetness. It doesn't really have the same kind of muskiness. It has that sort of aquatic vibe still. But definitely as these move into the dry down is when they diverge the most. But, ultimately, there is a sense in which there is a similarity to Nautica Voyage to this fragrance, in my opinion. They definitely do have some similarities in the overall profile, in the way that they progress, in the actual composition. To me, there is a similarity between these two fragrances. So if you ever thought to yourself, I love Nautica Voyage, I would love to have a niche version of that, you might really want to try Roses on Ice. Another thing I find Roses on Ice has going for it, before I move into performance, there is a little bit more of this chilling, kind of cooling vibe that I don't really get as much with Nautica Voyage. So there is, especially in the opening, this sort of chill, relax, cooling kind of a note there that really does sort of add an extra dimension to it. Now, speaking on performance, both of them are fairly soft fragrances, so they're not super loud. Either one of them. They are airy, they're light, slightly aquatic, they're light. They're light fragrances, and I feel even if you sprayed both of these a bunch, they would never become overly heavy. It's never one that really pushes into your face. If you think about like Pacific Rock Moss, to me that is just this very airy fragrance. Now, the performance on that one is terrible, although I heard that they fixed it. But it's one that you can spray like 8 or 9 times, probably even 10 times, and it's not going to offend anybody. I get the similar kind of lightness from both of these fragrances, so they're not like, even if they're projecting, even if there's something that you smell, they're not these really in-your-face kind of fragrances, either one of these. But I will say that this one does have better projection and longevity. Longevity on this one, it's in that 6 to 8 hour mark, whereas this is more in that 4 to 6 hour mark. It definitely doesn't... it's not a slouch considering for the fact that it is an aquatic fragrance that costs less than $20, but this one does last a little bit longer in my personal opinion and from my experience. Now, again, times you would wear these occasions, absolutely the same occasions. These are both very casual fragrances, good for t-shirts, good for like that white t-shirt vibe, definitely best for the hot days. I am actually saving the rest of my sample of Rose on Ice for... when it starts getting really hot out, because I really do want to try it out in the heat. I think this is where it's going to excel. I already know this one is great for that. It's actually been a fragrance that I've worn to the gym. This one would also work for that, although, a $200 fragrance in the gym, do I really want to do that? I don't know. I mean, part of the reason I like this one for the gym is because it is light, which this one also is. It's inexpensive, and, I'm going to have a shower after I work out, so I don't mind that it doesn't perform or last that long, because when I shower, it'll be gone. I get a feeling if I sprayed this, worked out for a couple hours, and then showered, it wouldn't be completely gone. Haven't put that to the test, but I get a feeling that it would have a little bit more staying power than this one. But ultimately, casual, fun, easy to wear fragrances that both suit the same occasions, and ultimately there is a similarity to me between these two fragrances. This is, in some sense, a niche version of Nautica Voyage, but ultimately, on the quality, this one definitely wins. The notes are so much more high quality feeling. There's none of that, even if you smell it up close, there's none of that screechy vibe. The cucumber, very, very photorealistic, where this one has more of a, an impression of cucumber. I don't really pick it out as like, oh my god, this is a really vivid cucumber note. Now that's something to be aware of. You are going to smell a little bit like a cucumber with Roses on Ice for sure. But there is this airy, ozonic, nice kind of a rose vibe. Both of them do have, the florals in this one, I should say, in Voyage, do actually smell pretty decent. I don't find them to be overly feminine, and I don't find them to be overly synthetic feeling. But that ozonic vibe that it has, something about that, a little bit synthetic. Of course, it is a synthetic note, but it does have a little bit of synthetic vibe in the negative way. But this one also has the more interesting dry down. It has more complexity and more depth. And I think it's one that, especially for people that want something a little bit more than just a plain fresh fragrance, it's a lot more robust, and it has a lot more character to it. So I think it's going to satisfy people who like a little bit more from their fragrance a little bit more. So ultimately, in my personal opinion, in the fragrance battle, yes, Roses on Ice does win. For price value, though, this is almost impossible to beat. $20, honestly, this is a very wearable fragrance. It's very likable. It's easy to wear on virtually, I mean, you could wear it virtually any occasion, but those white t-shirt occasions, summer, spring, Voyage is a really, really good fragrance, and it's one that is very appealing. So I think people are, you know, if you care about compliments or if you just want to smell good for other people, this is a very safe fragrance to purchase. But back to the point, Kilian, you are the winner here. You do have the better fragrance, the better presentation, the better everything. You would expect that from a Kilian and from a higher priced fragrance, but fortunately it does deliver. This one, however, is nice for the price if you like your cheap fragrances, and for some reason you don't have Voyage. I still think it's a great fragrance even to this day. Anyways, guys, if you've tried both these fragrances, what do you think? Do you think that they have some similarities? They smell the same? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.